Okay, working on this 2011 Chevy Cruze. Has the 1.8 liter engine. Got leakage up here at the oil cooler. You're probably going to notice the burning smell before you notice anything else. I don't have a lot of oil leakage, but you know, check that. It's not losing a whole lot, but it is burning oil because it's leaking out on the exhaust. And it can cause issues with getting into the coolant as well, so it's something you want to address. So first I'm going to show you what you're going to need to get here before you tackle this, and then we'll show you kind of what it's doing. Okay, now you could go about this in a couple different ways. You could get the entire oil cooler assembly and do that. That's going to work. However, it's still not going to include all of the seals you're going to need to do this job. Now the way I'm going to do it is just use the OEM. It's fine. This is the part that needs to be replaced at like 100,000 miles. This one's got 130 on it. This is the most important kit that you're going to need to get. You can get this, you know, various places. I don't know if the parts stores have it. You can get it on Amazon, eBay. This is going to be a complete kit, and it's going to have all of these O-rings that we're going to need for various things that you'll see as we get into this. So this is the first and foremost before you tackle this. You're going to want a kit like this. So don't start until you get a complete seal kit. Now it came with these for the oil cooler part itself, but I'll probably just use this one. So anyways, so again, just to repeat, if you get a complete oil cooler assembly, I don't know that any of them that will come with all these seals. And just to stress that if you don't have a lot of these O-rings, you're going to be going to the dealership to get them, and these are like $10 each for some of these seals. So this was less than $30 for the oil cooler and this kit. Okay, so we got it on ramps here. Now, you want to take the time to chalk your rear tires. Okay, we're probably not going to be able to see a lot from up here, but it is leaking back behind this here. Let's go underneath and take a look. So we can see down here we definitely got some drippage that's running down. And we're going to have to get some more things out of the way before we can even get a good look at it, but usually this is going to be your culprit. So we're just going to go ahead and get started here. Okay, the very first thing we're going to be tackling is getting this exhaust out of the way. Now in order to do that, we're going to need to get this dipstick, and sometimes these can really stick down in there, but you can see we got a bolt. We've got our O2 sensor we need to get unclipped, and it'll just clip to this heat shield. So we'll go ahead and get that unhooked, and we'll just get to work on removing this probably this dipstick here next. Okay, so this is going to be a 13 on the dipstick here. Now I will say this, there's no guarantee on how easy this is going to come out of here. I have actually broken these things trying to get them out and had to replace it. So if there's a lot of corrosion, then you're going to have some trouble. See, this is sticking, but not bad. It's loose. So if you can get it to turning at first. Okay, I'm hung up here on something. Alright, so there is that. Now get yourself a box or something, maybe even a bigger box to keep all your stuff in, just to kind of keep it organized. Alright, you're going to need a set of E-Torques. And the first thing we're going to use is this E12. You'll notice how these are shaped. Okay, and it goes without saying that you do not want to be working on a hot engine. Oh, I'm on the wrong one here. Just a second. We're supposed to be down here. I was removing the lift there, not paying attention. Alright, so we got that one, that E12 out of the upper part of the heat shield. Okay, we're down here at the bottom and they switched the size to an E10. So we're just getting these two lower E10s here. Okay, now what I hear, this is not real easy to squeeze out of here, so I'm going to see how difficult it is before I take that AC compressor loose, because I'm not fighting with it. Okay, so it's wanting to hit right here. It's not really hitting on the O2 sensor, but it's wanting to catch right there, making it really tight to get it out of there. Okay, we got a 13 millimeter, and I got a slim ratchet. Got this at Harbor Freight. Now this little tensioner has the left-handed threads, so now I get a little nervous with these because they're little bolts, and these belts have a lot of tension on them, and they do strip sometimes. Let's see if I can get you down in there a little better. Alright, so we're going to see what we can do with it. Hopefully slip it off up here, this upper part. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. Okay, now you see right here is the first top one on the AC, and I'm going to be using this 13, I believe. So yes, 13 it is, and I'm not going to take these out, but I am going to loosen them off. At least I don't think I'm going to have to take them out. Switch over to my little micro ratchet just to prove to you I can hang on to it. Alright, so I got it loosened up about ½ an inch out of there. I'm going to do the same to the others. Alright, just getting on the lower one here now. We got one more, I believe. So again, we're not taking them all the way out. Okay, so if you can see this one right here. Okay, so with them loosened, we can just pull it back here and get slack. And if I have to go more, I will. But I'm thinking this may be enough. Now, you know, people get them out of here without doing this. Not to say that you don't have to do it, or you have to do this. But you know, I've just found that if you're fighting with something, getting it out, then you're going to be fighting with it going back in. So I just like to try to take that problem out of the equation. Okay, so see, we can move that back and get slack, so we can just pull this back now. Okay, the next thing we're going to get on is these 13 millimeter nuts on the exhaust. This will probably be your biggest obstacle, and the best thing I can tell you is penetrating oil, you know, and work them off back and forth, you know, like you would a tap or something, and hope for the best. A lot of times they will break, and your only choice is going to be to put another bolt in there. Try to get another bolt back in there because it does happen more times than not. I have had these off in the past and put a good amount of anti-seize on these, so these shouldn't be an issue. But I know this is usually one of the biggest problems. Okay, this one's tight. If they do survive, definitely put a lot of anti-seize on these things when you put it back together. So we're just going to get these 3 13mm nuts off here. Alright, so there we have that loose. And don't lose your gaskets. Go ahead and put these back on. Okay, before I move on, I'm cleaning this up with alcohol. I'm going to tape this thing up here. Now, if you have something, plastic cap or something that'll fit in there tightly, that would work too. Now, I do have a important reason for doing this, so you'll stay tuned to find out. Okay, under here we got a bracket. Now, you could either remove it here and remove the whole entire bracket and get it out of the way, which I think I'm going to do, or you can move it here and simply get it off of the catalytic converter. This is an E12 also. I'm going to remove the whole thing because it's just going to wind up getting right back in the way, I'm sure. That is a piece of dirt dauber, we call them. This that's been oil soaked and burnt. Okay, we're just on the other side here. We're gonna take this in here out. Alright, so we got everything loose finally down here. Now, I always say this, when you can, get in the habit, if you don't label a bolt, put it back where it came from, because you'll get a lot of these bolts mixed up in different lengths and sizes, and it's easy to forget where they went. Okay, now all we got left is these 10mm. We'll need a little bit of an extension for the lower ones. We got like 9 of these. And we're just going to go through and get all these loose. So for the lower ones, just need a little bit of an extension. We've got 5 of them down on the lower, 4 on the upper. And there's what those look like. Now for the bottom ones, I've got them loose, but I'm going to use a magnet here to get them, maybe. Alright, we should, we'll either lower this down or up or something. I think it's going to be easier to go down with it here. But I could be wrong. Catching on these hoses here, I think I should have took that O2 sensor out, because that's actually what's causing me problems right now. So I think we need to do that. Now, I usually like to break these loose as a rule of thumb before I put them back on anyways, because if you do have to replace this thing, then you're gonna have problems in the future. Okay, let's get it re-rotated here. Let's try this again here. Alright, so we got it loose. Alright, so that was just an oversight on my part. We'll get this O2 sensor out of here now. There we are. Okay, let's try it again without the O2 sensor. Okay, much better. I think I'm still catching on my bracket because I left my bracket on mine. Okay, so we're going to have to go out and down the bottom here because that bracket just got to find the magic combination. Okay, now I know I said I wasn't going to take all those AC compressor bolts loose, but I did, and you know, they were almost loose as it was. There was just one little connector on top of that AC compressor, and I just pushed it plumb over there out of the way. I knew I could get it out the bottom, but with that moved over, I can actually pull it right up and out of the top here as well. So definitely got that out of the way. Okay, if you don't have any of these little caps, you may want to put your dipstick back in temporarily. I'll show you why, but I went ahead and put one of these like caps in there. It's nice and tight, nothing's getting in there. You could also tape it up as well. I'm going to go ahead and take this exhaust gasket off. Now I'm just going to be taking alcohol, going around the exhaust to clean this up really well. Okay, we're about to clean this up now, and this is the reason we were taping things off. Now I'm not going to be spraying up here, but I do have this taped off really well. I'm going to be spraying basically below the tape, but I've got a cap in that, I've got that taped, I've got that taped, and I got a bag on that so nothing's getting in there. We got the pressure washer ready to go. Now the first thing that I've done is took some of this purple cleaner, and I've just got it in my little sprayer and just getting some degreaser on here. Now you'll want to make sure whatever you get this degreaser on that you rinse it off, because it will continue to eat on aluminum and everything. But this will just help kind of break that grease and stuff loose. We got some old cardboard down here. I said you can take yours to the car wash, but you're going to be limited with the exhaust and everything on there, how much you can get off it. That would be a option if you don't have anything to clean it up with, you know. I mean, a water hose, something, just degrease it and kind of clean it up before you get started. But we're going to go ahead and start spraying, and hopefully, now I am going to have to stay away from my tape up here. This pressure washer got a lot of pressure, it'll take it off. The main thing is you want to get this as clean as you can. We got enough work to do without fighting with debris and stuff. So it's looking a little better. cover the computer box splashing over there. Okay, I think that's the best we're going to get to do, or be able to do to it here, given the angle and stuff. So we're going to go with it. We're just going to blow it off of there and let it dry out before we do anything else. Okay, next thing up, we're going to take an E10. We're going to go over here and get this pipe loose. And you see we already got a drain pan down here. We're just going to take it loose here and let it drain. And once we get that drained, we'll work on taking some of these other ones loose up here. So we've got a couple of E10s there too. Okay, now this here is just a bracket that holds this wire that's running down to the AC. Now if you take some needle nose on the back side and squeeze these connectors, you can pop those out right there. So I'm going to go for the lower one. So now if your coolant is good, okay, I need to get that. So if your coolant is good, a lot of times you can, what I do is I pour it through some paint filters and put it back in a clean jug and just run it back through. Okay, so there's that little bracket. May not be able to get it even loose just yet. Okay, I've just twisted this because I just want to try to get it to draining before I take the upper one loose. Okay, so I'm going to let that drip. We'll get started on this other one. Okay, now this pipe up here is underneath this big hose here. We're going to use an E10 on this as well. If I have to, I'll move my drain pan over. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, now there's the one on this other side, if we can get in here. I'm just using like a 6-inch extension here on this side. There's really no need to remove this hose though, because regardless of where you drain the coolant, more coolant is going to come out. Okay, now I did place another pan because I realized there was no way I was going to get it to stop dripping on both sides. So we'll just let that continue to drip. Right, just to show you where our bolts are. That one's actually got a little bit of an adjuster to get that pipe into place. You see where it's positioned now. Looks like it's pretty well maxed out. There's those. And as we come over here, got 1, 2, and one down there on the bottom. Okay, before we start taking this loose, we're going to take our 24. I'm going to go ahead and just break this loose. Alright, we're just going to take the E12 and go in here now. So it's got the two down here on this end. We'll get on these first. And this little pipe is either going to pull out from the engine there, or it's going to pull out from our oil cooler. And that first one, I'll try to give a better view going back. I just don't care to crawl under there with all this coolant dripping. Okay, then we just got our 3 over here. I can't really get that tube. It's kind of difficult to get it out of there. I'm just going to leave it for now. We'll try to take it out of here as a unit maybe. So I'm getting the E12 on the very bottom here. All these E12s are the same size. Okay, I just finished twisting this one. It actually moved this time. I really do need it out of the way. So there is that one. Note the O-ring. Also the O-ring in this end, that one kind of pulled off. Now this little coolant pipe down here is kind of stuck. So kind of need to get it loose. Okay, I did pull this one out too. It was just stuck, and there is room to get it out. Okay, now this one down here is like stuck. Now I'm worried that if I don't get this loose before I go to trying to get the oil cooler loose, that I might bend it. So I'm going to carefully get over here and try to pry against that. I'm going to have to put something here to protect this though. Okay, so it is really stuck, so I'm just going to have to gently start getting the oil cooler pried out. Okay, so give it a good pop with that pry bar and it did come loose. I think this down here is okay, but it is still stuck, and I didn't think to pour up my coolant before it got oil in it. So it pulled out from there. Well, this pipe still has coolant coming out of it. You see how clean we got this down here. Well, of course we'll have to wipe it up a little bit, but you know, the biggest thing is keeping that debris out of there. This one here does not want to relent, so I'm just going to kind of twist it here, back and forth. Alright, finally got it. I guess it wasn't leaking. You can see these seals just kind of stuck to the engine block. So there we have those. Okay, so we took the time to clean this up with some degreaser. And of course we took the cap and the old filter out. Still got some dripping coming out of there. But we're going to take a T30 and we're going to start zipping all these out. Now if you got yourself a whole new assembly, you can disregard this part. Alright, so we'll probably have some more drippage here. So I got a rag. Okay, it's got a couple of locating pins. See here and here. Okay, it's stuck. I'm just taking some spreader pliers. I'm going to come right in here. Alright, so there we have that. Just got to dig that old gasket off. We don't need this. Right, now we're just going to take this and run it back through the degreaser and rinse it and stuff again, get it clean. Alright, so we're ready to get the seal on. We got it cleaned up again. Just get that on our locating pegs. Right, I'm going to be putting some Loctite on these little Torx screws, some medium Loctite. So just get them all down by hand. Don't run the risk of cross-thread anything. And if you want to worry about torque, 55 inch-pounds is what I'm going to torque these at. And you can't put these the wrong way, it won't go. Okay, so immediately what I'm not liking is how these are setting in here. They're not holding like they should. And that's a recipe for disaster. You know, this thing comes out of place when you're installing it. Not going to be good. So I'm going to take some RTV. And I just kind of put a little dab in here. We're going to put it in a few areas. Because we want to make sure this is going to stay put. Now, yes, we'll have to let this set up. So I ain't doing all this work to have it come back out of there and mess up. So we're going to push it down into this RTV. And this will get messy if you ain't careful. Okay, I had to get creative here. I didn't clamp those down hard, but I've just kind of put something on them to hold them in there because it's still trying to pop back out with the RTV on there. Okay, we got all kinds of seals, and I'm gonna, one of these, this one is slightly bigger. These little special seals you see here are the ones that go onto these. They kind of go in there, and the O-rings are going to go on the ends of our pipes right here. And even though those look flat, they were at one time round. So hopefully these are all going to be the accurate size. We're going to find out. These may be slightly different. You see how wide this is, and that doesn't really look as wide as it should be. Doesn't mean that it won't work. That's what came with the kit, so that's what we got to work with. but you see a little bit looser than it should be. So anyway, just taking the pick tool and digging these old ones off and putting the new ones on, and said you don't want to do all this work and not replace these things. Going to be nothing but problems. So too much work to not do it. Alright, so anyways, I'm just digging these off. Okay, there's some in this kit that are a little bit bigger than these, and those were not the right ones. I figured that out right quick when I slipped it on there. It was way loose. That wasn't going to do nothing but leak. So these smaller ones, they should go on here nice and tight. So basically just got to dig in there and find the right one. This one, if they fit over just over the end nice and snug, then it's the right one. If it's loose or way too tight, then it's going to be a no-go. Okay, so we've got all of our O-rings on. Now we're going to go ahead and dig this old seal out, and this one for sure would be the one to leak if any of them did. This can be a pain to dig out sometimes. Alright, so we got our new one, and it should, after it goes in, have a little bit of a stick up, because that's what's going to seal. If it don't, then it ain't sealing nothing. And if I can show you, sticking up just that little bit on each side. So we're going to do the same thing. We'll dig this one off. And there we have that one. So we've got all of our O-rings and everything took care of. Like I said, if you just get the oil cooler, I don't believe any of them come with these O-rings, and you're going to need these. And if you buy these at the dealer, I know last time I went they were like $9, $10 a piece. So you start adding it up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those things. That's going to start adding up. So you definitely want to get this kit. Alright, last thing we're going to do to these, we're going to take some of this dielectric silicone paste and we're going to go around the O-rings. The ones on there we're not worried about, but the O-rings we're going to go around. These are going to be a tight fit or a little bit of a snug fit, and we don't want them tearing or potentially tearing as they go back in. So we're just going to go around each of those. Put a little of this on there. Right, I just had this setting overnight because it got dark anyways. So let's check it out. Just had some cardboard on there. Looks like it's nice and staying put now. We'll finish snugging that once we get it on the vehicle. Now I'm also going to put a little bit of medium Loctite. Now you can see where these went in to the end. Oops, I got the high strength. This stuff will come out though. Alright, now I got the right one. We're just going to put a little bit of this It turned off to be an incredibly cold day today. Let's get this first one started. Yeah, I've got that just loosely in place while I work this smaller pipe in here. I believe it's going to have to go in here first. And I may even have to take that one bolt back out. It looks like it still doesn't have a lot of room. Okay, it will in fact push in far enough. I just wanted to make sure of that before I went to putting any other bolts in. So we can go ahead and slip it up into place there. All right, I'm just going to get another bolt in place here loosely. And then we're going to slide this. Let me get this out of the way maybe. Wow, it's still tight even with that grease on there. To get both hands. Alright, I'm going to try to carefully push on this with a pry bar and see on this, just on this lip here, carefully. Alright, that did the trick. So that one was the really tight one coming out. Before we get a lot of bolts in, we're going to make absolutely sure that we're going to be able to get all of these in, because as it is now, I only have a couple of bolts loosely in place. Alright, so probably need to turn it like this. Then we should be able to rotate it down and into place. And we'll just make sure that little thing there's centered. I'm not going to tighten these yet. Okay, I know the one on the other side is going to go in easily, so I'm not worried about that one. It's just these two here. Alright, we're just going through snugging these up just a little bit before we get the torque wrench over here. Okay, so we're going to torque these to 18 foot-pounds. And these are our E12s. Okay, we're getting the two on this end. Got a little bit of medium Loctite. These are the E10s. If you're not torquing these with an inch-pound, I would suggest using a small little micro quarter-inch ratchet and doing it that way. I'm only going to go 55 inch. I mean, you see how small these bolts are. Okay, so we got some medium Loctite here. We got to lift this in place here first. We'll make sure that it feels like it's centered. Okay, I've decided these can handle about 65 inch-pounds. We'll snug this back up while it's handy. Alright, well, everything on the oil cooler's buckled down. We're going to get this tape back off and work on our exhaust now. I've already got this cleaned up, so there's not to worry about that. Okay, before I set this exhaust, I purposely left these bolts here loose. That way I can make absolutely certain that this exhaust is going to get mounted and torqued down flat. We're going to go 15 foot-pounds, nothing to it, just start in the middle. And you just kind of go in a crisscross pattern, working your way out. And then you'll just go back and kind of double check them once you go through them all once. I can't recall the torque on this off the top of my head. I think it's like 40 foot-pounds or so. I'm just snugging it. We're going to work on getting the AC compressor back over here now. Okay, I don't have to tell you the importance of starting these by hand before you put the ratchet on there. Get this connector while it's handy. This is the last one. I'm going to go ahead and start snugging them up. Okay, so I'm just going to go through and torque each of these to 15 foot-pounds. I know it calls for 18, but I'd just rather err on the side of caution with these bolts. Alright, I got my 13 slim ratchet. We're going to go ahead and slip this belt back on here. So you want to have your belt ready to go up here in place before you go to pulling back on it. And it does take a little bit of force. Now I made the mistake, which I meant not to do, is putting the compressor on without the heat shield, so don't do that. I'm more than likely going to have to take the AC compressor back loose, but we'll see what's going to happen here. I did not mean to do that. Okay, I did squeeze it down in here. I would imagine that it's easier to get it back down in than it is to take it out, but it did fit. But that was just a mess up on my part. I got to get this brace. Remember, I left this loose. I'm really glad that heat shield slipped in there. Kind of defeated the whole purpose, but it did make, the compressor being out did make getting the exhaust out much easier. I'm just putting a little medium Loctite on these on each side, and then I've also got to tighten this one once I tighten these first. I'm going to torque these to 15. So I'm going to get the ones going in to the engine first. Okay, I'm going to torque these here to 15 as well. I'm going to torque these to 25 foot-pounds. I'm just going to go ahead and loosely get these little E10s started. Okay, we got our dipstick. We put some of that silicone paste. We got a little bit of Loctite on our bolt. I'm just going to go ahead and feed it carefully back down here. Okay, I didn't have it snap down in there good. You will hear it snap when you push it down firmly. Not going to worry about torquing this, but you know, 15 foot-pounds would be more than enough. Okay, that's got some little holes that this little brace will kind of snap into. Just going to snug it up. Go ahead and get our O2 sensor. I guess because it's really cold, it's not wanting to drain out. It's just really slow. I think we got all of it. Okay, I've got a jug in it so far. We're just going to crank it up, check for leaks, and work the air out of it here. Okay, we've got it cranked up here, and we're checking for leaks. We do have some burning, which is going to be common, because anytime you get WD-40 and stuff on there. Okay, so let's take a look under here. As it turned out, I had it one groove off on that AC compressor. I had to move that belt though. That's what that squealing sound was you heard. So like I said, burn off is going to be expected. I got NOCs all over those studs up there. Do not see any drips, any coolant drips, any oil drips. So this stuff will just burn for a while until it gets all that off of there. Then it'll get chalky. So it's burning down there. I put it on the O2 sensor as well. But this is where I got the coolant. But there's going to be some air in it. We're going to have to just work the air out. We'll get the thermostat opened up, run the heat, make sure it's circulating, and just fill it as we need to. But so far it's looking really good. And hopefully that's going to stop all these leaks. Okay, so I've got it warmed up pretty good, and I know the heaters, it's circulating. We got it at 150. Hadn't had to add any coolant yet, but sometimes you have to drive it around, but you don't want to drive it much to make absolutely sure you get that air out of there, and you just, cool, let it cool off, release any air, and then add more coolant. Alright, so that's going to do it for the video, other than just getting the air out of your system. No drips or leaks, everything's looking really good. Now you want to keep a check on this after doing a job like this, not just look at it today, but look for any drips or leaks. So if there is a problem, you can catch it before you have an issue. So just kind of something to keep an eye on for a little bit to make sure that everything's good. So I know that people give Cruze a hard time, but this is actually one of the cars that I have the least amount of trouble with. I've put a new timing belt on. This has been an excellent car. Now compared to the 1.4 liter, it's a pretty easy job as far as doing the oil cooler, but this one here is not too bad. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. As always, I invite you to subscribe, and thank you for watching.